Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen, you know what day it is. It is Wednesday, and you know that means it's all things warrior womanhood. And so, it is the podcast time, y'all. And so, I'm so excited to have you here on today. I love to talk about all things soul care, all things healing, right? Listen, come on in, come on in, come on in. Go ahead and be sure to tag your sister friend. Let her know that we are here. Let her know that this conversation is happening. Let her know that this is needed. Listen, I got a little something on here. Let me just go ahead. You be trying to come up camera ready, but things happen. Right. And so, I'm just excited to be here on today. I'm always excited to do this podcast. I'm always excited to talk to my sister friends so they can share with you what it's been like for them and their little nuggets of wisdom, and tip tools and techniques that they can leave you with, right? So that you know that you're not alone in this journey, that there's always some form of healing that some other woman has gone through that now is ready to lead the way for you to actually go through, your own healing journey, but wants to give you some steps. I call it the reach back, right? Because we're not in this, we don't do this warrior womanhood thing to, just sort of share information. It's like, nah, sis, I'm coming back. I'm grabbing your hand and I'm reaching you and I'm pulling you up to the other side because you don't have to stay stuck where you are in your healing journey, right? And so you know that the podcast is all things soul care. And so I always like to share a little bit about how I define soul care versus self-care. And then, just share with you a little bit about me, right? And so, how I define soul care, right? I consider soul care to be like the surgery that's needed. So, let's say you have a shoulder injury and you're not quite getting the same range of motion. You can't really use it to your full capability. There's pressure when you go to move it. It's not really functioning fully like it should, right? And our emotional trauma kind of functions the same way. And sometimes what's needed is beyond just, I'll just deal with it. I'll just sort of remind myself and tell myself like it'll get better. Sometimes what actually needs to happen is you need to have surgery. And so we need to go in and we need to get to the core, to the root of what is causing this injury, what is causing the pain, what is causing the damage for it not to function fully and properly the way that it should. And that's what our emotional trauma does to us. It prevents us from showing up fully, from showing up in ways that we know we can and we desire to. But because we're dealing with things like rejection at our core, because we're dealing with things like abandonment at our root, because we're dealing with violations that we haven't talked about, right? Because especially in the Black culture, we don't talk about our business. We don't put our business in the streets, right? You don't tell everybody your business. So instead, we harbor it inside and it prevents us from showing up fully and totally in the ways that we know that we should. And so, like soul care with surgery, it goes in and we look at the root. We look at what the issue really is. And then we work to repair, right? First, we got to remove what's not working, what's causing the pain, what's causing the damage. We got to remove that. Then we got to repair it. And then we can heal it and seal it. Now, what I consider self-care to be, it would have been all the things you would have done to prevent the injury from happening in the first place, or it's also the things that you do to prevent re-injury from happening if you've already had to go through some type of surgery process, right? You have to go to physical therapy. You have to strengthen it over time and build those muscles again so that you can use it till it's to its full range of motion, right? And so that's how I consider and differentiate soul care to self-care. So I just wanted to give you that basis so like how we're going into the podcast and what we're talking about. But on today, I am so excited. I am so excited. Listen, it's one thing when you meet new friends. Like I'm always like, hey, new friends, like make sure you friend request me because I like new friends. I'm not Drake. I'm team new friends. But it's another when they live close by and you're like, we gonna hang out. We gonna hang out. And so I was so excited to meet Natolie. And so let me just tell you a little bit about Natolie as I bring her to the stage, right? Amen, somebody. As an emotional well-being coach and psychotherapist, I love when I get an opportunity to collab and network with somebody who's in the field, but also is a coach in the field as well. Because there's a lot. like free to admit I don't know what I don't know. And so they bring a wealth of knowledge to the soul care conversation. So she is an emotional well-being coach and psychotherapist. Natalie empowers ambitious women leaders and high achieving entrepreneurs to overcome their biggest unconscious blocks so they can have a more soul-led, joyous, and fulfilling life and thrive in their personal and professional lives. She is a certified clinical trauma professional and certified mindfulness informed professional. She has helped hundreds of individuals build on their strengths and attain their personal growth. They are committed to accomplishing successfully. Natalie, welcome, welcome, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I am doing great. And I just feel like, oh, I'm just so excited about this conversation already. You have set the stage for an amazing, amazing conversation. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Listen, I already know this conversation is fitting to be rich, as they say, fitting to be. Let my Alabama come out. It's fitting to be rich, right? And I just love when we were having our conversation prior to the podcast of just getting to know each other and getting to know the platform. That we just had, like, I loved how you are combining a combination of the psychotherapy along with the coaching, right? And there are some clear defined lines between the two in terms of what you can offer and how you can offer it and strategies and techniques, at least from what I'm learning. I'll say it that way. And then I'll let you expound upon the truth of what I think I know. Amen. And so, but I just love the conversation that you and I had where we were just talking about, how soul care is a part of the whole healing process and, therapy itself. And so I know a lot of the times when I talk, it sounds like I don't believe in therapy. I am team Jesus and therapy, right? Based on the healing journey that I went through. So one of the first questions that I like to start off with, because my description of soul care can be totally different from somebody else's description of what soul care could look like, or it could be the same. So I'll ask you, what does soul care mean to you and how would you define it? Like, what does it look like for you?
Wow, wow. Such a rich word, soul care. I love this. And so, what I think about first, just the soul is the spiritual essence of who you are. The soul is the spiritual
Mhm.
essence of who you are. So, the soul care for me is you healing and addressing and confronting any and everything that gets in the way of you connecting to who you really are, who
Right.
you really are at your core. That would be the way I would describe that, mind, body, and spirit, because that makes up the essence of who we are, and being
Mhm.
intentional with healing all of the things that could be getting in the way.
Listen, I want y'all to pick that up. Like, she didn't go to one specific, like it's only this or it's only that. She said, no, you got to deal with all of the things, all of the things, all of the parts of who you are and work to heal those parts of you. Like, it's not just
Mhm.
isolated, it's not compartmentalized, it's not one thing only that,
Right.
if you heal this one thing, everything is going to be great. It's all of it. You have to
Right.
look at you as a whole holistic being where there's so many different facets of you that may have been impacted by any type of trauma, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, psychological, all the different types, right? Financial. There's so many different types of abuse and, trauma experiences that we have, experienced at some point in our life. And here's the thing, we're not immune to it.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, we're going to experience something on some level. How much it impacts us, now that's different, right? It's like the difference between, I hate to, maybe I shouldn't correlate it to this, but it's like your calling and your purpose, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, well, your purpose is to serve at the very
Mhm.
core. How
Mhm.
you do it, that's when you're called to do the thing, right? We're
Right.
not just calling people up to generalize, to have general conversation. And some days we are, but for the most part, when we're calling somebody up, it's because we want to talk about something specific. We want to vent about the man last night. We want to say, hey girl, hey, we want to, shoot the breeze and say all the things, right? And then, but your purpose to call is because you want to feel connected,
Right.
right? And the same is with trauma. We're not immune to it. You'll experience it. And even the Bible says you will experience offense.
Mhm.
It's not if, it's not maybe not you. It's not it's gonna
Mhm.
skip. It says you will experience the offenses because they will come, right? But how
Right.
it impacts us is all different. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about, your background and how you came to this? Because I'm really intrigued how you came to the crossroads of psychotherapy and then this, and not like maybe a full transition into coaching, but you saw
Mhm.
the need to become a coach. And so I'm curious to know where that adjustment happened for you, where the thought process maybe shifted to like, you know what, I think I do want to coach, because coach and therapist are two totally different, like, and yet the approach to it and the mindset to it, I believe, are two totally different things. Now you can come and correct and convict me, sis. Okay. I'm signing that permission slip. Like, well, that's not quite true. Okay. So yeah.
No, no, I want to share because I think it's important. How did I get to this point? I remembered my high school psychology teacher, and I think she had an impact more than she realized on the choosing of what I did. Because I started out as a nursing major, actually, but I was feeling called and had always felt called to help and support people. And I knew that nursing, I could do it, but it wasn't in the way I was going to want to do it. So
Mhm.
I have always been the person that I am. My friends will tell you, Ayana, in middle school, I was the one they came to ask me questions, figure out life. How do I tell my parents things? I was that person. I didn't have the skill set, obviously, but there was something about me that drew people to me with their concerns. So I know it's a gift as well.
Mhm.
So a
Amen.
part of that means I didn't find it, it found me.
Yes.
It found me. But as I went into private practice, I knew I never was going to stay in the four walls. I knew that there was more that I could do outside of the four walls. And with the profession that I chose, there are some limitations and some things I have to consider. And so coaching was that next step to say, how can I help more people? I only can do but so many one-to-one sessions. How can I help more people? Because I realized there was such a need. I kept
Mhm.
hearing the same struggles, the same stories, the same challenges, just different people at different seasons. And it made sense at that moment that I wanted to help and impact more lives. But that came through my own experiences as well. I just wasn't the expert. I was living out a transformation that I didn't even know I was doing, which is also a part of
Amen.
my story.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good because I think too, there's a misconception, and I don't mean this like as no shade, but I think there's a misconception that anybody who's in that mental health practice, who's a licensed professional in that practice, has it all together,
Mm,
and that they too hadn't gone through their own, like there's this belief that you've never dealt with rejection, you've never dealt with divorce, you've never dealt with losing children, you've never dealt with sexual abuse. And
mhm.
it's like, that's not true.
Right.
That's not true. I just know that the profession limits you from sharing those experiences and getting to that nitty gritty. Coaching allows you to do a little bit of that, a little bit more of like, I know too, like me
Mhm.
too. I couldn't
Right.
say it in this setting, but I can say it in this setting.
Right.
And so I think, you know, that's part of the connecting piece that I think a lot of people are looking for when they come to and see a therapist, but don't really know that that's part of like, but I can't, like, I legally can't like divulge this. And it's not best practice. It's not ethical. It's not safe, to do that because, then you start building some sort of attachment bonds. You could, to the clients and they start, and then it becomes a whole thing. At least that's how I played it out in the Lifetime Hallmark movie that runs in my mind.
Right, right. No, I mean, the whole purpose is that you make sure it stays on them, that it's about
Mhm.
them. And so if I were to disclose or tell a lot about me, it's no longer about them.
Right.
And keeping that on them is the part of it. But yes, coaching can allow you to do more of that, and it allows you to form different types of relationships with your I see them as the same. I'm not
Yeah.
above or beneath them. We're all on this journey together. So I often see myself as a guide in that
Yeah.
space, right? Because I am navigating a path as well. I'm not exempt from that. So it allows some of that to take place, which is what I love.
Yeah. And I love that you use that word guide. I remember I was studying about the hero, the whole hero journey. And there's always this place, like the whole hero journey itself is, you have the regular person. They realize or recognize they have some superpowers. They try to go out and do some things with these superpowers that they know now they have. And then they realize they can't really maximize it, and they start to feel this level of defeat. Insert this person who's had the same or similar superpowers that says, this is why you're struggling. This is why you're not. And they come alongside them and guide them to the truth of who they are. And then there's always this one defining moment in the plot where they are out trying to do the thing and be great and be the hero, but they are so completely defeated. And then there's this one point in the movie where they recognize who they are, and what they can do. And it always comes back to the one thing that someone said to them that became the guide in their story to become the hero in their own journey.
Wow.
And so I think that that is so crucial about knowing what position you play, whether it's a therapist, a coach, a mentor, whatever the position is, you operate as a guide, and the story is about them. But
Right.
you're coming along with your wisdom, with your knowledge, with your skill set, with your tools to be able to usher them into becoming the hero in their own journey. And of course, that
Mhm.
comes with so many different types of challenges. So I'll
Mhm.
ask you, for you personally, what has probably been the hardest challenge, the biggest challenge, the hurdle, the step in your own healing journey? And
Wow.
what did that look like for you to get to sort of the next, to become the hero in your own journey? What was
Wow.
that like?
Whew. Wow. Big question. I am delighted to answer because, yes, I have been on my own healing journey. And I will say, I didn't realize there was no sign that says you're on a healing journey. Start here.
Right. You're here.
I wish it was. But my story leads me to the journey. So I'll share this story. As a kid, from second grade to sixth grade, I was teased. Different kids, different reasons. And I later learned, obviously, they were kids, they were immature, they didn't realize the impact that they had on my life. But I went on from elementary school and I became class president, homecoming queen, prom queen, best all around. Like they eventually saw me in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
But the impact of what happened when I was younger left scars, And so I graduated number 11 in my class. I went on and got undergraduate, master's degrees, all of that stuff. And I graduated at the top of those classes. But I still struggled with the never good enough. I didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
pretty enough, talented enough, smart enough. And I knew in my mind at any point, they're going to find out the truth. They're going to find out the truth at any point that I'm not this stuff. So I struggled with all of that. And it came to a head in my doctoral program because I did not do well. And I had to repeat classes. And eventually I got dismissed from that program. And it was in that moment that this hurdle, this healing step had to start to happen for me to start to see who I really was. I can't tell someone about something I've never experienced.
Yeah.
I can't take you but as far as I've been. And so I had to go on my own healing journey of me discovering who I am and God reminding me. I can remember times, Ayana, I would look in the mirror and I would say, you are beautiful because God made you that way. And when I looked back at that mirror, I would see that 9-year-old, that 12-year-old little girl who didn't think that or believe that. And all of the things that they brought attention to, I would see those parts of me, but I would say it over and over and over until eventually it got to this place that I would look in that mirror and I would say, girl, you are beautiful because God made you that way.
Amen.
And I believe that. And so my journey has been that challenge of healing that never good enough wound and how it has shown up in so many ways in my life. And so when I stepped into this online entrepreneurial coaching space, oh baby, it showed up.
Yeah.
Never good enough showed up, but it showed up in a different way. And I had to go through so many processes. And let me say that to those who's listening, it's not you accomplish it and you move on journey.
Right.
It'll show up in another way when you were ready to step into another level of who you are. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to confront some of those things that were coming back up. And so those are some of the strategies, challenges that I had to face in my own healing journey.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So I wanna just expound a little bit on one on the last thing and the last word kind of that you said, and that's challenge, right? And so one of the myths that's out there is healing is hard. And I like to correct that mindset and say healing is not hard, but it is a challenge and it will
Mhm,
challenge you. And the
mhm,
reason why I like to differentiate the words is because hard for us, and by definition, is exerting an extra amount of energy to get something done.
mhm,
And so if you're already depleted because you're in this space of just traumatic experience after traumatic experiences, well, yes, it's going to seem hard because you're at a depleted place. But when you can shift your mind and say, this is going to be challenging. And when you look up challenging or when something feels challenging, it's because you don't have a certain set of techniques to get through. And so you just need to find what that process is, what that technique is, what that information is. What do I need to know in order to move to the next? And so healing can be challenging because you just don't know what you don't know.
mhm.
And once you get these techniques, you can move forward. It's like the next one step. I can take the next one step. And when you look back, you've taken 30,000 steps and you're like, oh wow, I'm really not that woman that I used to be. Simply
Right.
because now there's some techniques. I've talked to some people, I've gone to therapy, I've gotten a coach, and they've given me some techniques to actually get through this hump, to get through this hurdle. But you're
Right.
absolutely right that every time you elevate yourself, the wound may show up again, just a little differently, right?
Mhm,
And so, I know, like you were saying, as you go through the journey, as you transition from, this training to that training or getting this credential to that credential, there are a whole bunch of, I was just dealing with the workshop that I'm about to do. It's my first sort of workshop. And I'm
mhm,
like, I've never done the workshop piece before.
mhm.
And I'm just thinking like, oh, this is a lot. Like, am I qualified to do this?
Mhm.
And then like you say, the rejection and the like for me, the rejection and the abandonment come right back up. And it's like, okay, so people may tell you no because, and it's just like, and then it starts eating at you. But
Mhm.
you're right. The whole part of your journey, at each level, it's going to be something different, and it may experience, but the beauty in it, and this is kind of leading to the next question I have. The beauty in it is that you're now equipped with more tools and more techniques to be able to get through this hurdle than you were the last hurdle. And it's like all the things that you've learned from this hurdle will help you with the next one. And then what you learn in this one will help you with the next one. Because, like you say,
Right.
it's a continuum, just like grief. It ebbs and it flows, and it shows up when it wants to show up. But when it shows up, what are some of the things that you are going to do? Like my dad's birthday recently passed, and I had to just decide that I was going to hold space for whatever the day may have been.
Mhm.
Instead of preparing myself to be sad, I said, no, just hold the space. So if you're going to be happy, be happy.
Right.
Like if you're going to laugh, laugh. If you're going to do all these things. But that his birthday immediately after he passed was like gut wrenching.
Wow.
But I learned some things that one, and then the next one, and then this one, and it'll continue to go on and on and on. So I'll ask you, and that's been rewarding for me. So I'll ask you, what has been sort of the biggest reward that you've experienced as a part of working through the I'm not good enough as you've been on this continuum through your psychotherapy career into the coaching, but then also you just as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, what does that look like?
Yes, yes, it's so rewarding. You mentioned the word challenging, and it can be rewarding. Like two things can be true at the same time. I love
Mm,
that. Some of the biggest rewards has been me realizing I am not who or what I thought I was. Right, like I am so much more than that, and I'm
yeah.
not defined by anything. We are not defined by anything that we've experienced, but it's also given me a greater compassion and a love to be present with people and help them heal. Like I have a unique gift to do that, and I value that. I appreciate that, but I know it came through my own challenges. Biggest rewards is seeing other people experience their transformation. But I had to step
Yeah.
into my own for that to occur.
Hmm.
Um, to be able to tell when I hear that voice in my head that says you are not good enough, or it might show up in another way and saying, I don't know if that's going to work out, right? That's still never good enough. The reward is I now know what I can say back. Um,
Come on, sis.
I can love on that part of me, because what also makes healing challenging is there's these parts of you, and when we have wounds, they become, for lack of a better word, disintegrated,
Yeah.
separated, and to be able to talk to that part of myself in a very loving, compassionate way. I'm not judging her. I'm not beating her up. I'm saying, baby girl, I know why you're scared. I know
Hmm.
this is a lot for you. The last time you were in front of people, they made fun of you. I get it. I just
Right.
want to let you know I'm with you. I'm going to
Right.
stand with you when you go on that stage, and I'm going to make sure nobody comes up to bother you. And if they do, I'm going to take care of them. Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm
The big
handling it.
reward is that I get to do that for myself. And that part of me who couldn't get
So
that
good.
or do that, I get to do that. So when I talk about rewards, there are many, but those are the first that come to my mind.
Listen, I hope y'all like she just gave y'all tips. Like she just kind of broke it down. And so I just kind of want to repeat what she was saying, which is, when those things come back up, like she's learned one, she's identified the different ways it sounds, which is crucial because it doesn't just show up like rejection is here. I've checked in, like it's
Mhm.
not coming out like I've named it.
Right,
It's not
right.
coming out that way at all. Right? Rejection is coming up like um they said it was too much money. They said check with me next week. They
Mhm.
said you always say no. They said,
Mhm.
like it comes up, it sounds different. So pay attention to the way your particular, trigger shows up, what it sounds like, what it makes you feel.
Right.
I remember my husband saying to me, whenever he would say, I want to talk, I'd be like, oh crap.
Mhm.
Like, and I would have to prepare myself because in the early stages of our marriage, he would say not nice things. And they're not like, cussing me out or things like that, but they were things against my character. And as I was, in my new to my faith walk in Christ, I didn't know how to handle that. And I understood his intent was try to help me see me. But it was like you aren't being nice in the way that you're helping me see me. And God is so gentle with it, but you're like attacking me. So
Right.
when he would say, I want to talk, I'd be like, oh God. Like I would have to really prepare. And I share that just to say these are certain words and phrases that come up that instantly trigger that I'm not good enough, the rejection, the abandonment, the whatever it is for yours. And so
Right.
I love that you were able to identify the different ways and the different words that it sound like for you.
Right.
And then the second thing was knowing what you needed to do to talk back, right? And it wasn't the clapback that I think that we, perpetuate in society, where it's like, tell that thing to shut up, tell that thing, it wasn't the
Mhm.
clapback. It was the nurture that
Right.
combated the negative, self-talk, the triggering of, this wound that girl, I get it. Like, yes. And I feel like that's the way God is with us. Like we
Absolutely.
can mess up royally and he'll still be like, I get why you did what you did.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
not what I want for you to do, but I understand why you reacted the way that you reacted.
Right.
Now that we know that this is a thing, can
Right.
I just tell you, one, how much I love you? And two, it's okay that you're in this space. And three, I just want to tell you these things that will help you the next time. So you don't have to react,
Right.
and it takes more energy for us to react to something than it does to respond to something. And so when we can get ourselves to a place where you're, like you said, you're experiencing that I'm not good enough. And then you're like, girl, that's okay. I know why. Like,
Mhm.
let's just take a breather. Let's acknowledge the truth of what we feel.
Right.
Let's call the thing a thing. And then let's remind ourselves the truth of who we serve and his provision for us in our life. That, he tells us not to fear. 365 times. And every time he tells us to, he gives us some sort of instruction of what he gave us. It's not just a blanket statement. And so I love those two things. So, ladies, if you're tuning in, I just want you to really write those tips down. One, how is my trigger sounding? What does it show up as? What are some of the words or phrases that I hear that instantly start to send me into this spiral, or where I feel like my, wound is triggered? And then two, what are some of the nurturing statements that you can say to yourself as a result of being triggered in that moment? What are the ways that you can meet your wound with love?
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
think that's so good.
And I'm
So
going to add to that, because not only what you hear or what it sounds like, I also want you to know what it feels like. So
yeah.
I have become in tune. And a lot of the times, I will say, as women, we become disconnected from our bodies, our
Mhm.
emotions. But if I know that shows up in the top of my stomach, I get a feeling there, right? Then I start to say, oh, wait a minute, I think that feeling is here. What's
Mhm.
happening? Which is this awareness that is a tool for healing. You got to
Right.
be aware. And so you may not be able to name it, but you'll go, I'm having that feeling in my stomach again. Maybe I need to pay attention right now. Maybe I need to think
Right.
about what happened 5 minutes ago. And that's also a great tool and a strategy to learn how to heal yourself, which is the mission I am on. I'm on a mission to help you heal yourself. I don't
Yeah.
need to be the person that does that. You can do that yourself.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I know when I started my healing journey, that was the way in which I started. It was definitely self-therapy.
Mhm.
And it was like I did a couple of assessments that helped me to see me. And then God used like sort of my way of processing and my reluctancy at that stage to trust somebody with the deepest parts of me.
Wow.
And so he became my therapist, if you will, in the
Mhm.
moment, because he knew where I was. And so I'd say from 2016 to maybe the top of 2020, it
Wow.
was me and God. It was literally Jesus in therapy. Like he was my therapist, and it
Mm.
was all self-therapy. And then I got to a point and I said, okay, you're ready for therapy now, because you can actually receive whatever they're going to say. And I
Wow.
couldn't before, because I was like, and we're talking about the heels of coming off a suicide attempt. That's why I think he did it that way.
Wow.
It was like, you're not going to be able to handle, traditional therapy right now. So let me walk you through. Allow me to just come alongside and be your guide. And by the time I did get to therapy, she was kind of like, I'm not sure, like, what do you need me for? You know? And it was like, I still need it. It wasn't an absence of. It was like, "Oh, no, I'm good." It was just like, "No, I wanna make sure." It's like you wanna make sure you didn't miss anything, because we all operate with blind spots.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I just kinda wanna make sure I'm not missing anything, or and we worked through some pretty big things that ended up coming up as a result of just life, which
Wow.
was great to have her there, because I actually needed her for those things. They were things around sexual trauma, they were things
Mhm.
around unforgiveness, and I needed somebody to be able to say certain things to out loud,
Wow.
and she was just a huge support. So I recognized the difference years after. Like, I was like, oh, that's why he did what he did. And I get that piece, right?
Wow.
So I love, the tip of just like becoming aware of where you are and what you need and why. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What is your body telling you? And that's a whole nother conversation about how your body recognizes the emotions. And we
Right.
tend to ignore it because we don't think from an intellectual standpoint that our emotions and our body are connected.
Absolutely.
And that's why we feel something, the whole physiological aspect of our emotions. That's why we feel something when we are angry. We feel the rush, we feel the heat.
Yes.
We feel the tingling. We feel, when we're in fear, we feel the numbness go through our body. We feel the freeze of
Right.
what that feels like for us, and then if we're nervous, we feel the bubble guts. We feel the nausea. We feel the hot sweats, and, we feel the faint and the dizziness coming on, and our bodies have a way of directly correlating with the emotions that we feel. So whenever something is said, you're absolutely right. What did you just feel? Because if
Mhm.
it meant nothing to you, you wouldn't have experienced any sensation
Absolutely. Absolutely.
nowhere. And so
Absolutely.
that's how you know your body is telling you there's probably something there that you need to explore. We feel it when we're watching movies and someone says this quote or this line, and we're like, oh, what was that?
Hmm.
Is it a desire that I have to be loved this way? Is it that they said, and I experienced that hurt, that pain in a previous relationship, and I haven't dealt with it? And
Right.
that's a way of bringing it back up to your remembrance, like, oh, there was something there.
Right.
And so that is so, 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 so good.
Right.
I think I would want to know, what is one concept that if you could share, you would really want women to lean into as part of their healing journey, or as part of just becoming more aware of who they are, what they feel, and what their perspective is based on what they feel?
Ooh, wow. Many questions I hear there. So,
Yeah.
what would I offer them to lean on or lean into to help them on their healing journey?
Hmm.
One of the things that I think we underestimate and we don't use a lot is the breath. There is
Yeah.
so much power in breathing. If we look at the very beginning, that was the very first gift God gave us, was the breath. But we don't use our breaths enough. And from a scientific perspective, the breath is like a remote control. It actually can reset the system. And we mentioned trauma earlier, but trauma goes beyond some of the traditional things we think of. Trauma is
Mhm.
anything that impacts your nervous system. Anything that
Yes.
impacts your nervous system becomes trauma for the brain.
Mhm.
And so the breath has this beautiful way of resetting the stress response system in the body. It helps to, what we call, activate the rest and digest system of the body. The breath is good for the physical body in general, lowering blood pressure, boosting your immune system. That would be one thing that I would really encourage women to lean into as a part of their healing, because the body stores trauma, stores emotions, and the breath has the power to unleash those things in a very, I'm going to say, for lack of a better word, in an easier way than sometimes talking does, right? Because when we
Yeah.
talk, we have to potentially relive those things, think about them, experience it again. But you can breathe some of that stuff right on out. And you
Mhm.
might start crying or you might start yawning. I love to see women, they just start yawning. They don't even know why. Sometimes they'll just start stretching out. So it's a way, but I definitely would incorporate, ask them to consider breathing as one of the powerful tools to heal.
Yeah. And I think that's so good. I think that's so, 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 so good. We do underestimate the power of the breath,
Mm,
and forgetting that's how we even got here,
right,
was like, that's how, we entered our human bodies, was
right,
through the breath.
right.
And every time you return to that, it's almost like returning to the origination of how we were created. And
Mhm,
what we don't recognize is that every time we breathe out, it's a release.
right.
Every single time, whether we're subconsciously just in our everyday life and we're just going about our thing, and we're breathing, we're still releasing.
Right.
We're still releasing. But when you're intentionally on the breath, right? You're doing that deep breathing, you're taking a deep breath in and you're taking a deep breath out. When you're taking that deep breath in, you're creating this sort of sense of awareness that has to come in.
Mhm,
And you're opening up your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. It's
right.
like there's this connection now of, like, now I'm asking, what am I feeling? Like, if you've ever done, and I know, I'm sure you have, but for the women out there, if you've ever done those breathing techniques or breathing exercises, and you can find them on YouTube, but it's
Mhm,
like they make you become aware of body parts
right. Body
all the way down
scans.
to, like, your fingertips.
Mhm.
And so, as you're doing that, you're just becoming more and more and more aware. Now, every time you breathe out, you're releasing some form of energy. When you're doing that and it's coupled with your emotions that you're dealing with, it allows your body to release those emotions at that time.
Right.
Because the whole concept behind the body keeps score, and I say it that way because if you really read the book, like if you really read the book, it's like it's not this cliche, the body keeps score. It does give you the information, but it gives you a lot of science, a lot of statistics, a lot of evidence of what it looks like when the body is keeping score, when the body is tracking your trauma.
Right.
And so, from a very sort of, I don't want to say superficial, but I'd say from a very surface level, when you are in this emotional state and you experience anger, what's happening is if you don't release it, it's going to find somewhere in your body. The
Mhm.
energy of anger is going to find somewhere in your body that
Yes.
may already be exposed, that may already be damaged, that may be weakened, and it will
Right.
store itself in there. And then you wonder why your back hurts. You wonder why your hips
Mhm.
hurt. You wonder why you feel so tense and so stressed in your shoulders. You wonder
Right.
why your jaw is so tight. You wonder why, your knee is aching. And we're not talking about down south, it's about to rain, my knee is aching. We're talking about, sis, you
Yes.
wanted to experience this emotion. You didn't let it out. You didn't find a healthy way to deal with it. And so your
Right.
body is holding on to it for an opportunity to release. And if you never do, it just stores in these pockets of areas where we're already, compromised.
Right.
And so that is the when the body is keeping score. That is when your body is remembering the trauma.
Remembering
And
it.
so every time you experience anger, this certain part of your body starts to flare up.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like crazy how that works. It is
Absolutely.
absolutely crazy how that works. And I was just like blown away. So come on with the science because I'm here for it all day.
Well, and I think it's so important that we know this because you're right. The body stores it, and it has also been shown that certain parts of the body carry certain emotions. So we carry anger in our breast, and
Hmm.
we now know a lot of women may even have breast cancer because of anger in the breast. We
Say it.
carry stress. You're right, in the shoulders, in the neck, in the lower back. We carry guilt in the lungs.
Right.
So people who are grieving, I'm sorry, I said guilt. We carry grief, I'm sorry, in the lungs. So people who are grieving sometimes have trouble breathing because
Yeah.
the grief is stored in the lungs. To me, when I learned this was life changing because I said, wait a minute, we don't have to have disease and disorder because we can release and take care of our souls, which is what we're talking about,
Right.
and let go of what no longer serves us. It no longer serves you to hold on to that. So it's powerful for our
It
healing.
is. I'm so glad that you shared that because I know when I say it, people are kind of like, do you know how you get the skepticism? And
Mhm.
I'm just like, but it's so true. It's so, so true.
Right.
Like, this is why you feel this insurmountable pressure of feeling like you just feel weighed down when you're going through grief. And we're not just talking about like a loss of, a loved one through death. We're talking
Right.
about any kind of loss,
Any
any type
loss.
of grief. Grief is just suffering.
Right.
And so any type of suffering that you feel like you're going through, this is like when people are like they lose their jobs or something, they break up with their boyfriend or, they have an argument with their parent and they're like, oh my God, I feel like, and you think it's a panic attack and you think
Mhm.
it's the anxiety coming on. And it's like, no, you just actually have to process the suffering that you feel as a result of the loss that you just experienced or that you
Right.
think you've experienced. Like
Right.
let's process that. Let's
Right.
just process that. And I had put a post up the other day. It said, I sat with my anger long enough to recognize her real name was grief. And
Wow.
it's like, it's so true. Do you sit with it long enough to recognize that it's actually this? Or do we just say, it's my anxiety, it's my depression, and we label it a thing that we don't even fully understand just
Wow.
because of the symptoms that it displayed outwardly. And it's like, ma'am, if you just kind of checked in with yourself, took a couple of breaths, you probably would recognize that you're actually dealing with this and you can actually do something about it. And I think
Right.
that was the so dope part about what you said previously with the whole self-care journey is that you have the power to do something. Like we imprison ourselves in our own heart, and we're also the guard, and we're also the warden, and we're also all the people, but we're also the key holder. Like we can actually unlock that and release ourselves from it. And I'm
Wow.
just like, sometimes we just doing the most. We just be doing the most. It's like, ma'am, you have the power. I promise you.
Right, right.
Okay.
It's the gift of choice. The very first thing God gives us is free will. So this choice, as long as you have the power to choose, you can always make a change. As long as you have the power to choose, which is a part of that healing, right? I get to heal. I get to change. So yes, all of that and so much more. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I love this conversation. I'm having a good time. I hope you're having a good time because I'm having a good time. This
Yes.
is good. This is good and good. So I'll ask you this because I never want to leave any of our listeners with just information. I always want to make sure that they have some resource, some tips, some tools, some technique that they can use as part of their healing journey. Like they listen to today's podcast, and then they can get off this podcast, and then they can practically implement this one thing. So, what would that one thing be for you that you could share with them about what's their kind of like their next one step? What is the next one thing that they could kind of do?
Ooh, you got me to do it in one step. Okay. I got to readjust because, Lord, there's so many things I could share. One tip I would give to a woman on her healing journey. Wow. I'm going to have to say two because two things pop in my head. Okay. I'm trying to
Yes,
fight that.
ma'am.
One
Yes,
tip,
ma'am.
though, to know that you are complete and whole and lacking nothing at your core. And I say
Mhm.
that because sometimes we'll get into this cycle of I've got to fix myself, something's wrong with me, going back to never good enough, I got to fix myself, something's wrong with me, and that will keep you in this spiral. But if you remember at your core, you're whole, complete, and lacking nothing, and you're trying to reconnect to that, right? You're not trying to fix yourself, you're trying to reconnect back to who you really are at your core. It helps the journey. Because again, you'll start thinking something's wrong with me. Oh, I got to fix another thing. Oh my gosh, I worked on this and now it's something else. All of that will come up. But if you remember that and you're just trying to reconnect to who you've always been, you just forgot who you were. You just forgot, sister. So that would be the one tip. The second thing, though, that popped into my head to say for someone, because is this. Um, oh gosh, I just lost it that quickly. The second thing that I had,
Mhm. Holy Spirit, let her get it back.
I
Let her get
know.
it back. Bring it back to her remembrance.
It went right out the window that moment I said the second thing. Oh, the second thing I would say on your healing journey, thank
Amen.
you,
Amen.
is question everything
Mhm.
on your healing journey, whatever you are. If you're at the very beginning, if you're at the very, what you consider to be the end, question everything because we carry so many belief systems, so many wounds, so many experiences that we have allowed to define us or impact us, and we never question them. Like, why is it that I am not wanting to do X, Y, and Z? Why is it I always get afraid every time I meet somebody new? Why is it that that questioning, that becoming curious, will open up awareness, and you'll start to
Mhm.
say, "Well, I don't even know why I do this. Do I want to do this anymore? Does that even
Right.
make sense? What's happening here?" And it puts you in this position to dive deeper into your journey. So I had to give two tips. Sorry, two
Yeah,
things.
no, because they were good. They were great. And I think that's so true. Become a student of yourself. Become a student of yourself. Find out what makes you tick and then why it makes you tick, not just the what,
Right.
right? Find out why. I remember I used to, I mean, oh, I'm glad we met when we met now because I promise you, I was a whole hot mess just not too long ago. But it used to irk me to be in like a store with customer service. And then they would say things like, oh, we've never sold that here. And you're holding the receipt with the item that
Wow.
from the store that says, at one point you did. At one point you did. And, and then it would just make me, but it would enrage me.
Mm.
And I would have to sit back and ask myself, like, the rage that you feel, does it warrant the fact that she doesn't believe that. And what I
Wow.
learned was when I sat back and, like you said, asked, like, why does that enrage you the way that it does? Why does it bother you this way? When
Right.
it's clear, the facts are in front of you. The object is on the receipt. The receipt belongs to this store. So it is clear.
Right.
So, but why did you feel the need to, lash out and be loud and then try to cuss her out? Because you felt humiliated. You felt like she was trying to make you feel stupid.
Right. She was questioning you.
Right. And not, I like, and there's one thing, there was a marriage mentor that my husband and I worked with. And I don't know if he got this from somewhere else or it was his thing, but he introduced me to the problem being the problem and not the
Mhm.
person being the problem. And
Mhm.
in those moments, I always felt like they were making me the problem
Right.
and I couldn't handle that. So I would try to combat and puff up my chest with my anger and my rage to try to show them I'm not the problem while becoming the problem for the store
Right.
as the irate customer and
Right.
embarrassing my children in the process. You know,
Right.
that mom in the store, like, she got them young kids with her. Look at her acting a straight. I was that mom. And I never shy away from it. I was that mom. I don't wear it as a badge of honor, but I do recognize who I was. And so I
Mhm.
became a student of myself and I realized you're not the problem. And I would have to, and I still have to at times tell myself,
Wow.
you're not the problem. Just explain to them or ask for a manager and then explain. I just want to return this. It's on the receipt. For some reason, it's not coming up in the system. But as you can see, I did purchase it here. Here it is. Tags are still on it. How do we,
Mhm.
and then work to solve it. But that
Right.
took years to get to myself to say, you are not the problem.
Right.
There is a problem, but it's not you. Like you are okay. Your
Right.
personhood, your character is okay. So I
Right.
love so much that you shared that. So I thank you so much for this conversation. This conversation has been amazing. And I just want to give you an opportunity to share with the people, how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you, how they can connect with you for any of the services that you offer as a coach, if they are local to the area. And how they could connect with you, through psychotherapy services, if you choose to share that information, totally up to you. And then any last parting words for our women that are watching? So
Oh,
I'm gonna give it over to you. And yeah, I'm gonna let you share that information.
yes. Thank you for the opportunity to share. So I am on all platforms as Natalie Warren, Natalie with an O. So spelling that will help correctly. And then the Whole Woman Experience is the movement that I have been given the task to lead. And I'm honored to do that. And the Whole Woman Experience can be found at awaken to the number two power.com, awaken2power.com. And what would I say to you? No matter where you are on your journey of healing, I want you to remember the truth. The truth is that you are 100% worthy unconditionally, that you are perfect, complete, and lacking nothing. That's not something you earn. That is something of who you are. The fact that you were born makes you perfect, complete, and lacking nothing. And so your healing is really just about remembrance, remembering who you are and going back to the places to help you to do that and letting go of any and everything that doesn't serve you to do that. And so just continue on your journey. You can't go wrong. There isn't a roadmap, but you can't go wrong. Whatever path you choose, I just believe that that will be the path that God will use to unfold who you really are. So thank you again for the opportunity, Ayana.
You are very welcome. You are very, very welcome. This has been amazing. Listen, I am always excited and honored for the women that come on this podcast for their yes, and for just, being able to pour, being willing to be transparent and vulnerable because it's not always easy to do that. But then also coming on and sharing their wisdom and their expertise, especially as it pertains to soul care. And so I'm just so grateful and so honored for your yes. I am happy to know you. My son, when he was little, Levi, he would say, "Are you happy at me?" Like that was how he would ask, like if he, if he got in trouble or something, or if he felt like, and he's such an empath, so he can really feel people. And so if he felt like there was something off about me, he would come and he would say, "Mommy, are you happy at me?" And so I just kind of carried that because I just thought it was so sweet. And so,
Mhm.
I'm happy at you, sis. And I thank you so much for, coming on and your willingness to share about the contrast. Maybe it's not a contrast, but the look at psychotherapy and coaching and what it looked like for you as it pertained to the soul care journey,
Right.
yours and watching others go through theirs. And so, I just thank you so, 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 so very much
Thank you.
for joining us. And so, folks, this is another episode of the Warrior Woman podcast. I'm so excited to continue to do this. And so, I'm just going to pop up on the screen this link here. And so, we do this platform investment free. I do not want any woman to feel like they have a story to share, a message to share, and then feel conflicted that they can't share it because they had to make a substantial investment to be on the platform. And that is not how we work. That is not how God has operated me to conduct this podcast or the Soul Care Success Series. So if you feel inclined, you can go head over to warriorwomanhood.com/warrior seed, and you can sow a warrior seed into the ministry if you so choose. But I did want to put that out there, as God is pushing me more and more to talk about it as I've gotten the green light finally. So just know that that is available if you would like to make a donation into the ministry to help support sort of the movement of Warrior Womanhood, the Warrior Woman podcast, and the Soul Care Success Series. And so this has been another episode, another session of the Warrior Woman podcast. And I just thank you so, so very much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in on Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for a next episode. Until then, be blessed and take care. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.